Yeah, we're pumping the fuel out of the tanks right now because we want to take this fitting off right here. We're able to get that unit away from there. However, putting it back on, we don't want to run the risk of bumping that. So we're draining the fuel out. We're going to take that fitting out of the tank so that we don't accidentally hit that and ruin the fuel tank. There's a fuel line on both sides that we're going to take off of there. We're also going to replace the crossover hose that's on the tank. So we're using the same pump that we used the other day on pumping the oil out of that James Wade pump. It's just a diaphragm pump. Looks pretty good for jobs like this. We've got a long straw on it that don't break down inside the fuel tank. And we must be almost empty. It was 3/4 full. And it is just about down, just about out of fuel here now. Which is good because this is only a 100-gallon tank in the back of the truck here. So once we get this drained, we'll pull the fittings out of the tank. We've actually, it's empty right now. We've got little drain plugs here too, so we'll take them out so we can get that completely empty. The tractor's leaning to the left, so we'll get them fittings out of there, and then we can change that crossover. And Jake's got a piston that he's going to pull out of there and replace the O-rings on it, and then get this side back together. This tractor was growling quite a bit, and these brakes on this side are decent. So we're thinking and hoping that it's the left side that the brakes are gone on. This tractor's got just shy of 8,000 hours, and it's never had the brakes done on it before. All right, we've got the undercarriage in the shop. We're going to start working on getting that piece welded back in. This is the piece right here. You got the one end here, that's the cylinder, and then it has a 1-inch bolt that goes through there in the end of the cylinder. And then if you remember back a couple of videos, this rod here actually went through the side or the bottom of the night spreader, and when Wyatt was spreading, he noticed the spreader leaking a little manure, and believe it or not, this was sitting on top of the frame of the spreader. Now, I wasn't sure if it really came from this cylinder, because how would you break a cylinder in 2 spots? But if we match up the pieces here, they do go together. That is a clear match there. Not only that, the rod size is the same diameter. However, this joint here is a little different, but we don't know how much stress or how much of a bend that had on it before that broke. So that must have like simultaneously broke in both spots. Now we've taken this, we unbolted the undercarriage, we took the cylinder off and everything, and we determined what had probably happened was these pins seized up. And when they seized up, the pump, as it lifted, it also twisted. It twisted that cross member right there that the cylinders are on, and that's what caused this thing to all rip apart. Because as we were taking these bolts out, we actually took the cylinders off of both sides that lift that, actually pushes that undercarriage down. The bolts and pins were set up on both ends. So I don't know how you would prevent that if it's in the manure all the time. It's not something where you could take the pump out, grease it, and put it back in. But there is grease zerks on here. And that one there is broke off, and that simply broke off from working on it here. trying to get the unit apart. So we're gonna have to take this cylinder to the cylinder shop. It's probably gonna cost just as much to buy that rod as what it's gonna cost to replace the whole cylinder. So I haven't made up my mind what I want to do with that yet, but that piece that went through the side of our 124 Kuhn spreader belongs to this cylinder here. And yeah, if that didn't sit itself up on top of the frame of the spreader, we would have never have known what caused the hole to go through it, or the piece to go through it. So we're going to clean up the frame here, and we're going to start patching that piece back in there. There's nothing really left to weld onto here, but we're going to try to get that in there best we can so that everything kind of lines itself up there. I got that piece all cleaned up, and I've got it in place where it needs to be. We're just gonna weld it in there, and then I've got to get some pieces. I'm gonna put a piece of rectangle tube over the top of it. Then I'm gonna put a long one in underneath it, and then we'll see what we can do to fill in the front here. We can't go right across because the legs telescope up through here, and it's got to be able to push all the manure out of the front. So we're just going to start tack welding that into place, and then we'll get some pieces and fill that all in. I could put a heavier piece in there, but it can just rip this all back out again. So it's going to be heavy enough using the piece we're using, and just patch in the pieces that got tore out. Okay, so we have that piece all tack welded into place. We're gonna call it a night here now. When I started this video, it was towards the end of the day here, because where we ended off with the video prior to this one was when we actually pulled the undercarriage out from underneath that manure pump. I just wanted to show you real quick. That is the wheel to the 9410. Jason's got that all painted. That had some injuries from the bunk wall. We had to heat it up with a torch to get it straightened back out. Of course, it was all rusty looking. These are the rear weights to go to it as well. And the 7730, that got a fresh coat of paint on the front wheels. I think I had that in the last video. And he's got this covered up. He's gonna paint the front part of the grill. That's got some paint missing on it just from the pressure washer and whatever. And then this tractor's 13, 14 years old. So we're gonna get after getting the brakes done on it. Jake came in today, and he helped us work on this. We've also got the fuel drained on it. We're gonna change that crossover hose, and we got some other things that we need to do to it. Now the 9320 came in today for an oil change. They've got the oil changed on it. They ran around it with a grease gun, of course, changed all the filters, and this is going to go back on the spreader tomorrow. I know, get the pressure washer out, wash it. Well, this is going right back in the elements here tomorrow. This tractor's got 11,500 and some odd hours on it. This tractor came from a neighbor. I'm going to drop some clips in from when we bought this tractor. I think it was probably 10 years ago, and this was the first articulator that we have owned since we owned an 8430, like a 1978 or something like that. This has been a real good tractor, faded to beat hell. Maybe we'll get a chance to throw some wax on this one, but you know, it's dull. But the boys cleaned the cab up on it, washed the windows, and it is ready to roll out the door here tomorrow and get back into spread manure. All right, we got this outside. Now we're just gonna flip it over. I didn't have plugs to put in the place of those fittings, so we're just gonna have to be careful with it and set it on jack stands once we get it in the shop after it gets flipped over. So let's go ahead and flip this over and get it back in the shop here. All right, we got this flipped over. We've got it cleaned up, and we're just gonna lay a plate over this of some kind. This is split back through here. We've got to weld that up a little better. We're gonna heat this up here, right there. I'm gonna pound that down and marry it all back together. And then when we go and weld this, it'll actually be where it's supposed to be. So this is spread here, and it's also spread right there. So we'll heat that all up, get it pounded all back into place, and then we'll just lay a piece over the top of that, and we'll be in pretty good shape here. We've got to weld it right here and over here. Once we get that pounded down, then this plate that we put in on the top of it here is just going to kind of fill this gap in. So let's go ahead and get some heating done and some welding here. All right, the underside is all welded up. We'll put that plate across the top there, and then I re-welded all of the ears, and everything is all done on this bottom side. So we're gonna pull it outside now and flip it back over, and then we'll roll it in underneath the manure pump here. it is time to do the left-hand side here. I went to the dentist last night, and they've got the right-hand side all put back together. And now we're on the left side. So he's got a couple bolts to take out. Then we'll be able to pull this wheel off. And get after that one. Now the brakes weren't that bad on that side. However, that planetary housing was leaking hydraulic oil. So that had to come apart anyway. So that we could reseal that up. And subsequently the brake pad was fine on that side. So we'll have to wait and see what the brake pad looks like on the left-hand side.
Yep.
Did I wait for the fuel tank?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks good.
Swing it back or straight back?
Yeah, turn it that way. Turn it out a little bit. All right, you're free of it.
It's free?
Yep, back it up.
All right, this side's apart. Hopefully the brake disc is wore, but it's not. What the heck?
This side isn't.
No. This was growling quite a bit too, so I think we just did the brakes for no reason.
Yeah.
And brakes are like new still. Wonder what would cause that. Oh well, had to come apart on the other side anyways. So we have noticed some streaking Jake did in this one pad here, and that's probably where our noise was coming from. And we're doing this so that we don't have to do it when we're really needing a tractor here. So here's what that final drive looks like. Alright, we've got everything ready to go back together here. Got the surfaces all cleaned up. Now this is a metal on metal contact, and the gasket doesn't get used. All that's getting used is this anaerobic seal. This is a Loctite brand, and that's all that gets used, no gaskets. About how long have they been not using gaskets? 20 years?
At least.
Yeah. They used to use a paper gasket right here, and all these metal surfaces, all they use is that sealant right there.
Yeah.
Good stuff. The last video I did, I called that stuff jelly because it kind of looks like a, well, that would be a blueberry jelly, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Try
boy.
some.
Yeah. All right, we're ready to go back together. Now, there's a little bit of material left on these pads, but the new one is a lot thicker. Here is the new one right here. And if you just look at the cross section of it compared to an old one, it is quite a bit thicker, and it's probably just a matter of time before these would have been completely gone, and then we'd have the risk of the contaminants going in the oil and plugging filters and doing hydraulic pump damage and everything else. So
Yeah, you're better safe than sorry on this stuff.
yeah. What these brakes usually do, they usually start growling, and that's an indication of them being wore out or gone altogether. It almost sounds like it sounds like grinding gears on a transmission. So he's got the brake pad on there. Now he's putting it's like a pressure plate. The piston is in behind it, and the piston pushes out against the brake pad, and then this pressure plate pushes up against the actual housing there itself. So So we can put her back in, right?
Yep. Just in time.
Hey, what's up?
You're gonna come over my way some. Alright, keep coming in. Keep coming. You gotta go off a little bit. Hold it. Hold on.
Go ahead, a little bit. Yeah. Got times on it. Yeah, I can just plow the driveway with them.
I'm pretty close. Come on in until you hit it.
You gotta take the pins out and lock the handles on. Yeah.
Cut it a little bit towards the front of the tractor.
The tires gotta go to the front.
Just a little bit, yeah. Come on in and cut it that way a little bit.
Cut it
All
out.
right, hold it. Hold it right there.
Gotta do with it first. Yeah, they weren't really that bad. There's one disc on the floor behind you. Come out the other side, and then the other one's here. The right hand side was leaking, so.
Come on in a little more. Hold some pressure on it.
Put pressure on.
Yeah. Try pushing in some more. It's going. Hold it. Okay, we're up to the dowels now. All right, shut it off for a minute.
Spring stayed in there.
Yeah, the plate stayed in there. What I'm going to do now is turn this wheel, and that'll turn the final drive housing. See where it's got to be. It's got to come up that way. Got to go off. I don't know which way I got to turn it here.
The other way. A little more. Oh, right there. Just rock it back and forth. Yep. That's started. All right, we just got to fasten these bolts together. Have you ever seen one go together so easy? It just fell right into place.
That's the way it should go.
Huh? All right, there's like 12 or 14 bolts around that damn thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'll
6.
turn a couple in with a ratchet, and then we'll
Okay.
let the pressure off.
All right, we just got to hook up a few things here, and then this is going to be done. We got to get some oil put in it. Get it down off the jacks, and this brake job will be done. Got some filters that we want to put on it, and we're also going to change the fuel crossover hose. We ended up evacuating the fuel out of these tanks so that we could get those fittings off, because that planetary housing is real tight against the tank. So I'm going to finish buttoning this up. All right, this job is just about done here. Jake's getting ready to take off. We've got some minor things to do to this. We noticed the fuel crossover hose was dry rotted, so we're going to replace that. We've got to get one, and then we'll be able to start this up and let her run for a while. He's got most of the oil in there. We just got to start it up, let everything kind of transfer itself, and top it off. Right?
Yeah.
On to the next job, right, Jake?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have this guy around to help us get through some of these jobs. And to be honest with you, we were going to tackle this one on our own, and oh well.
This side went pretty good.
Yeah.
Better than this side.
Yeah. Had a little trouble with that other side there. It didn't line up. But I was at the dentist last night when they worked on that side, so looked like it went pretty good. When I came back, it was all back together.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna get on to the next thing here. All right, Jason's getting some black thrown on the front grill screen there. Throughout the years from pressure washing and whatnot, it kind of takes that black paint off. So he's got another coat that he's probably going to want to put on that. And for those of you that are wondering, a small job like this, you really don't need to wear a paint mask for it. You filter everything through a cigarette. And that really does work, you know. He's using real low volume too, because he's not having to throw a lot of paint on that. So he definitely has to put another coat on. You can see some light spots here. But the secret is to put a very very small amount of paint on there, and he's running it real thin so that it doesn't plug up any of the holes. You want that paint just to go right through and just to stick to the metal, being that it's got real small holes in it. So he's gonna let that tack up, get another coat on it, and then we're waiting for a fuel crossover hose, and we'll have to wait till we get that to where we can start this tractor, so it's not gonna hurt it to leave the plastic on it. Now anyway, so I'm gonna finish getting things cleaned up here. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this truck up. The engine and transmission we're not gonna monkey with. They're just, it's not worth screwing with. So this is gonna go right in the scrap truck. They're pulling the alternator off now because the alternator was in real good shape. We gotta get the front wheels off and the back left wheels. We'll cut it in front of the differential, and then we'll cut it right behind the transmission, and we'll make 3 pieces out of it here. We do have to take that air tank there off. That's not that old, unless it's got a hole in it right here. If something dropped on it. No, that's all in good shape. That air tank is in good shape, so we're gonna save that. This one here is, I don't know, we probably should save that one too, but about the time you get it mounted in underneath something, that'll probably rust a hole through it. So have a hole get rusted in it. So we're gonna get the torch in here in a little while. I'll push this ahead with a payloader. I don't think we can push it back again. Maybe we can. Yeah. Let me bump it a little bit.
All right.
All right, we've got that setting in place. I don't think I'm gonna monkey with bolting that clamshell up on there right now. We can actually put that on when we back it into the shop. It'll rest on there good enough. So we've got this welded in there, and that's how that's supposed to look when this is together. So we'll have to get some 5/8 bolts. That's what was in there. And well, before we move it, we'll bolt that on, but we don't need to do it right now. So we've got a truck to cut up, right, Jaden?
Yeah.
Let's get up there and cut that up. All right, we're getting ready to cut this truck up. We just drained the oil out of the engine. We're gonna have to drain the oil out of the transmission here before we load it in the scrap truck. This Cat engine, it's a 3208. I think this one was rated at 175 horsepower. This truck was a 1984 L8000. It was the first truck that we had that had an actual silage box on it. It used to at one time be an Agway fuel oil delivery truck. The engine went on it back in the early 90s. Nah, it might have been a little later than that. And we took this engine out of a 1979 F7000 Ford that was all rotted out. And that truck my grandfather bought when it was brand new. There's quite a few memories from not only this truck, but that engine. Now, when that engine was in the F7000, it was so damn loud just because there wasn't the best insulation in those old trucks, and you couldn't even hear yourself think. At the time, my grandfather sold seed corn for Dobler's Seed, and before they started delivering the seed corn here, actually he stored it in this building right here, he would go down to Jersey Shore in Pennsylvania and pick it up. And when I was 7 or 8 years old, I rode down with him when this truck was brand new, or maybe it was a year old, the 79, not this one. But my cousin and I went down with him. I skipped school, and we went down and picked up his first seed corn order for that 1 year. And we just about were deaf when we came home. So that's a little bit of some history on not only the truck, but maybe that engine. We'll just walk around this other side here. And for those of you that are familiar with the Louisville Ford cabs, they kind of had their own steps on them, and these steps all rotted out. And I put these steps on probably 10 or 15 years ago. So they're quite rugged, a little more than what you need, but they worked really well. So we're going to cut this up in 3 pieces. We're going to cut it in behind the transmission, up in front of that one cross member there, and then we're going to cut it in front of the differential. So I've got to drain the oil out of the transmission yet. This is going to go to Weitzman's down here in Syracuse, and you should try to drain the fluids out of these engines. So we took the radiator out of this. The radiator is going to be repurposed into that burn truck that Jared got going here back in the summer. You could see some of the coolant that didn't make the bucket is down on the floor there, and All right, it's time to put this wheel on. We're kind of in Jason's way. He's got one more coat of paint to put on the rear wheels of that. We've got one weight on. We've got to get this wheel on there, and we got to put that other weight on, which we're going to put that weight on outside. So if anybody's moved these wheels before, it's actually easier to move them alone than it is to have any help. But I am going to have a spotter or two. But if I drop it, it's going to be all my fault. It's going to be nobody else's. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get this on there.
We're
cheating. Alright, I'm gonna turn.
Yep. Plenty of room.
We're cheating. I'm eating my words. It's actually easier with two guys.
I know, right?
Alright, you gotta turn.
Yep.
Rawr. Put a knee in it. Turn this way. We might have to go up a little bit. Actually, that's right there.
It's close.
Just gotta go up a little bit.
Ready? Well, hold on there.
Yeah. Okay, actually it's on.
It's on right now?
Yeah, it's on now. I don't know where the holes are. Actually, we do want to go up. We gotta hold it on that lip and then we can turn it.
Alright, tell me when.
Alright, that's good right there.
Alright.
It's actually starting to fall off. Try turning it some. You got to get right on the tread in the front of the back and turn it. Lift up, it's easier to lift. Alright, it's right there. Alright, grab a stud there, Garrett.
I think we gotta go back.
Go back some. Get on the back of the tire, Jaden. Back of the tire. Actually, he's got it. All right, grab that impact and jam that in with the impact.
Right now?
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Look at that.
All right, that's on there. We're gonna get the other bolts in there. We've got to tighten up that rear weight and get this swung around. We're actually gonna put this on outside so Jay can get back getting his last coat of paint on these rims. He's painted the sidewall very nicely with tape. So that's gonna do it for what we need to get done with the 9410 for right now. We didn't end up doing anything with the top that is on the roof. We've got to address that. We're going to do that at a later date. Now we ended up painting these rear weights just because they stick out past the tire, and every once in a while they scrub on the wall. There is 3 450-pound weights on each side, plus there's a one, I think it's a 150, it's a thin one on the dual in the rear, and then on the inside of the wheel, we've got a 150 and then a 1375, I think it is, on each side. This front right wheel here, the tractor came into the bunk wall and it bent up the rim real bad, and we ended up heating the rim up so that we could get the bead to seat. That's why we had to paint this front rim. We were going to paint all four, but the Scotch-Brite cleaned them up good enough. On the front, we also have a 1375 on each side. So we're going to go ahead and park this for now. And Jason's just getting done with painting the rims on the 7730. These 6 rims here came off the old Ford. Jared's got his truck in here. He's going to put a water pump in it, and he ended up blowing this recap here the other day. This has got some rubber missing on it, so he ended up picking up another recap tire. They just mounted that up, and they're getting them put back on here. He noticed the other day, actually, what was it, last week? Yeah, last week or the week before, it was real cold. He noticed he had a puddle of coolant underneath the truck, and there was coolant leaking out of the weep hole. Now, he ended up putting a block heater in this, thermostats and whatever, and he should have just replaced the water pump then, but go figure, it is what it is. So he also fluid filmed the frame on this, and that stuff is worth its weight in gold. It stays on there and it protects everything. We have sprayed it on the electrical systems on these Diller tanks, and it really makes a difference. So we got the 1985 Ford L8000 in here, and the 1985 Freightliner came in its place. Jared had some decals made up for each side of the hood here. Yeah. For all you little kids at home, that says shish kebab. All right, so we are gonna clean up here, and we're just about ready to close out of this video here. Jason painted the first coat on these wheels without taping them. He cleaned up with paint thinner, and it just was too much of a hassle, so they ended up taping this one. And then the tape we use is yellow, so it looks like he oversprayed by quite a bit, but it's actually yellow painter's tape. He did the same thing on these front wheels here. They ended up taping them as well. He didn't feel he was able to do as good of a job trying to wipe all the damn overspray off the wheel like we did with the dual wheel on the 9410. So we're just gonna pull this tape off in a little while, let this set up a little bit. He's getting his paint gun cleaned up, and we'll show you what this looks like once the tape is off the wheels here, and we'll get the mask off the hood and whatever. Well, that's what the 7730 looks like with the wheels all painted up on it. Now this tractor's got just under 8,000 hours on it, and it's been a real good tractor. You really can't beat these 30 series tractors. When we went to the 12-row corn planter, this went right on the 12-row planter. I planted corn with it for 3 years. Then we ended up buying the 7200. I planted corn with that until we traded the corn planter in for a 16-row. Then I started using the 7290. Right now, we currently spread fertilizer with this, and it does really well. So that is going to do it for this video, folks. I want to thank you for watching, and we will catch you at the next video.